A lot of you guys asked in my last video how I got so many box transformers back here of G1. Well, I have a confession to make. All of my box transformers are not vintage. Some of you collectors, some of you hardcore diehard collectors may hate me for saying that. Some of them are KOs, some of them are reissues. They are not vintage in box. And I will go into more details and show you how, because to me, I love the old box art. I am not going to pay those kind of prices. I don't have that kind of money, but these KOs and some of these old boxes, they still give me that nostalgic feeling. We're going to dive into it, go over it more in detail, and I'll show you some of the boxes and show you how you can get some of them a little bit more affordable than paying for vintage boxed originals. Here we go.
Dynamite! Back to the 80s we go!
Here's a good one to start with. I was trying to find one that kind of jumped out at me, and we're going to look at Trailbreaker. I'll just pull this box out right here. And there goes Trailbreaker. Also need to dust this box, but for me, again, this box looks like a vintage G1. It's got the artwork, it's got the side, it's got the back. Everything looks great. Notice one thing right there. Transforms from camper to Bobot and back. So this is a KO. Again, some of these KOs have gotten better, but I don't care because I never opened this. I got it just for the box art. I like to put the box art behind the figures, like I showed in my last vehicle. And these are way cheaper. Some of the KOs have even gotten a little bit higher, but most of these I found off of eBay. And again, it gives me that same nostalgic feeling of walking into a toy store and seeing all the boxes lined up down the aisles with all the box art. And it does it for way cheaper than me going and buying vintage in box, which have gotten insane. Now, I will say some of my loose G1 Transformers are vintage, and I do have a mixture of vintage and KO and third party and reissue from Walmart has done some, etc. But again, most of my in-box G1 Transformers are KOs. So there's, like I said, every now and then you'll catch little typos. Sometimes if you go into the back, um, I didn't look at this one specifically, but see if I can get that to focus. When you start reading their descriptions on the back, you'll find typos here and there. But for the most part, again, the box art is the same. It even says 1984 down there, which it is obviously not. But it has that box art. It gives me the same vintage feel, and it looks great on a shelf behind my figures. If I haven't been able to find, every now and then I will get the KO version. Again, this is super dusty. And every now and then I will get a KO version if I can't find a good, decent vintage. But my loose ones, I like to try to keep them vintage as much as possible. But for the box figures, most of them are KOs, reissues, because on a budget, otherwise, this entire shelf, if you look at all the in box I have, would be outrageous. So much more affordable to go with the KO route. And I'm okay with my Bobots. Another example that is a little bit more affordable. So my Ironhide here, as well as my Ratchet, are the Japanese versions. So, and I thought those were kind of cool since Transformers obviously started as Takara and it started as Japan. Some of these, they may have them now. I haven't looked in a while, but I've had this one for quite some time. So my Ironhide here is, again, the same mold as the G1. It has the same box art. You've got the Takara Tomy sticker there. And I thought it was kind of cool that it had the Japanese lettering on this one. So it's a little bit different, but it still gives me that box art. Still gives me Ironhide. Still gives me the back, everything in Japanese. I can't read a lick of it, but it looks great on the shelf, and it is a lot more affordable than trying to get a vintage in-box that I just can't afford. Huffer here is another one that I had for a long time. I actually just had the card. I couldn't find a boxed Huffer, and I had just the card art, but eventually they did release a KO. So this is another KO that I got. But for the longest time, I had just the empty card art back there where the bubble had been ripped off and the figure was gone, but I still had the card art back there just to show Huffer and his card art. But this one, finally, they did get a KO, and I did upgrade my blank card to a KO version. Same with my Cliff Jumper over here. I couldn't find a boxed version of Cliff Jumper, so I found this old keychain. I believe that that is vintage. I could be wrong. You can obviously see the sticker marks at the top and a little wear and tear on the art, but until I could get a Cliff Jumper on card, I went with the keychain. They finally did come out with a KO that I was able to find. Where is that? There's a wind charger. I think Cliff Jumper is up here. There's Cliff Jumper. So I finally was able to get a KO Cliff Jumper for that card art again, but and I upgraded here on the shelf, but I did keep the keychain down over here on the wall again because it's just much more affordable. Most of these for pipes, hubcaps, some of these I know were Walmart reissues. I know for a fact that Chrome Dome right there was a reissue of the Headmaster. Chrome Dome was the only one I had of the Headmasters when I was a kid, so I have that one. I went with the Super 7 over here for Alpha Trion. I know for a fact this Omega Supreme down here is a reissue again with that Japanese art. And then let's see, I think we've got some more that they've done. I know also that Soundwave was a Walmart reissue. So again, you can see some of that's a little bit different. I think the originals had the styrofoam instead of just the clear plastic like that. I could be wrong. That Devastator in box, I also was a Walmart reissue as well. And I just ordered a KO Megatron in box. Forever, I couldn't find one. The actual vintage ones in box are outrageous, so I did finally pick up a KO for about 129 on eBay. Should be getting that any day now, and I will do an unboxing video when that one comes in. These are also KOs. My Minosaur, my Bruticus, my Defensor, and my Superion. All of those are all KOs, but again, I just love that old box art. I love the way it looks, and it just reminds me of walking into a toy store and seeing all that artwork. So that's what I was going for, and a whole heck of a lot cheaper than buying actual vintage in box. I do have one exception here. The Muscle Men right there, I actually found. I did not pay 35 cents for it, but I did find those Muscle Men, and that is actually in a vintage card. The My Little Ponies, pay no attention to. Those are my wife's. The only two things in this entire room that are hers that she allows me to keep this collection. So I had to keep a little something in here for her. I lied. The My Little Pony is not the only thing in here for my wife. My wife is also a huge Freddy Krueger fan, and so am I. So this one has our little Freddy shrine up here that also makes her happy, and I like it too. And we also have some horror collectibles mixed in here in the 80s toy room, so it works. All of these tapes down the wall, all are KOs or reissues as well. I think Walmart did some, and then the rest of them I was able to find KOs, but in the box, they are not vintage. Same thing. Doesn't just go for my Transformers, but these G.I. Joe figures were the 25th anniversary figures. So they are not like the vintage. The figures themselves are not the same as the vintage molds. All of my G.I. Joes over there on that shelf are all vintage, but for these select few over here on the card back, those are all the 25th anniversary, and I just got those because I liked the card art. These Indiana Jones, I believe I picked up on Amazon, and the molds are the same on the figures, but the card art is not vintage. And then same with when they did the Star Wars line, the Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and A New Hope. All of those have the retro sticker on them, but the figure molds are exactly the same as the vintage. And again, I just love the old card art, and they look good on the wall. for a whole lot cheaper than buying carded vintage Star Wars figures. It still looks great and surrounds the room perfectly, so I'm okay with it. Another Super 7 over here is my RoboCop, the reaction figure. I don't know if actually that may have not been Super 7, but I can't remember. It was the reaction figure, so I wanted a RoboCop to go next to my RoboCop movie tin, and that one worked. So, and then over here on my Tron figures, the light cycles are actually vintage, and the figures are NECA. So, not entirely vintage, but they look great on the shelf, and they look great above my Tron arcade one-up machine. Another example here is the Ghostbusters Firehouse actually is vintage. I picked that up on Facebook Marketplace, and the Ecto 1 is also vintage that I restored and cleaned up, but the figures came from the reissue figures, but they're the same mold as the vintage, so I just unboxed the figures and put them in the Ecto 1 and on the vintage Firehouse. So that is a mixture of vintage and reissue. Much more affordable. Some more box art over here, but this was from the Ecto 1 Transformer that they did, Ectotron. I've got one of him loose, one in the box. And then I also have the DeLorean that they did from Back to the Future, Gigawatt. And then those Homers I've talked about before, they don't. Those are actually knockoffs from Mexico. I found a guy that does a whole series of these, so I've got several of them kind of floating around, randomly placed in the toy room. And if you watched my Masters of the Universe video, that Castle Grayskull is vintage. The Sorceress is the only one I haven't replaced. That He-Man up there is not vintage. Neither is that Man-at-Arms. There's a couple more Homer figures. Everything in this display case all the way down, those are all vintage. But if you scroll over here, the card art is not vintage, but I still love the old card art, and those that go down the wall here are not vintage, but they look great, and I'm okay with it. Another example here, so all of my LJN wrestling figures that are inside the display case are all vintage. However, Target just did these recently, and I have been able to pick up the Hulk Hogan. I also did a black card, and then I've got the Dusty Rhodes. I am on the hunt for the Ultimate Warrior and King Kong Bundy that they just released. And again, that card art right there reminds me of being a kid and seeing that in the package. But all my loose ones here in the case are all vintage. So again, combination of some vintage and some reissues to get that card art look. For my M.A.S.K shelf over here, all the figures, everything is vintage. I do not have any box art of my M.A.S.K yet, but I do want some. But however, I did get an insert from one of the old boxes, and I just had that framed and then put it on a little frame mount back there, so it gives a nice little backdrop and has all of the first wave. Still don't have Boulder Hill back there. Would be on my list of grails that I would love to add someday, but I do have all the vehicles that are pictured from wave one. And again, would still love to get some box art, but for now I liked the way that looked, so I framed it and put it out there as a backdrop. So for Optimus Prime, one of my favorite toys of all time, I believe that one right there actually is vintage. I believe that is probably a Walmart reissue that came with just the cab. That's a modern figure. That is a Yolo Park masterpiece. That G1 box figure down there is a KO. That is the trailer version of that guy. Japanese art. And I've got a modern Hot Wheel over here still in the box. That is actually a vintage VHS tape, and you can see the packaging behind there. I do have that. I kept it in the packaging forever, And then finally, we decided to watch it on VHS, and I have one VCR still, so we pulled that out. But it's kind of a hodgepodge in my shrine to Optimus, but a mixture of vintage, KO, reissue, and some modern figures as well. But it displays great. I like the way it looks and makes me happy, so it doesn't have to cost a fortune. Even though if I were to add this room up, it still probably would be a small fortune, but don't tell my wife. Another vintage item here is the old lunchbox. I can't remember where I picked that up. Could have been eBay, could have been at a toy show. I've had it for a while, but that is vintage lunchbox. And then I had somebody I think I'd seen had done the Spaceballs, the lunchbox, which actually does appear in the movie, but the artwork is Metroplex. So I added that next to the vintage lunchbox. But there's another combination of vintage, loose versus all my cards down here that are KOs and reissues. I don't think, as far as the Transformers go, I don't think I have one vintage in the box. So anything that you see here in a box was a KO or a reissue or a cheaper version that still looks great on the shelf and still gives me that vintage feeling for way less and way more affordable. I do have the Puzzler down here, and I also have this Power Warrior from GoBots. That is, I found that actually at a vintage toy store. I got the figure loose, but it did come with the box. So I do have the box back there. Still see the original price tag of $24.97. That is not what I paid for it. Wouldn't it be great to go back to the 80s and pay shelf pricing? So there's some of that. I do plan to do a GoBot video at some point. I obviously have a big Transformers collection, but man, I love me some GoBots too. I've got a little scooter over there. I've got the box, but he is loose back there. So a little teaser of some of my GoBot figures. So again, when I was a kid, GoBots and Transformers, I liked both cartoons, and I played with all the figures together. One thing, when we did buy this Power Warrior, we got lucky. It was my son actually started playing with it first, and he heard something rattling around, and there was an extra Leader One in there, which I already had Leader One, so my son got to keep that one, but we didn't have to pay for that. It was just in the box or in the figure, and we found it. So bonus. I do have some vintage Viewmaster. Got the Centurions there; those are all vintage, and then the Viewmaster slides that are still in the card are vintage, and I've got a Transformers one there, and that is actually my Viewmaster from my childhood, and it's also my Paunch figure from Chips, was mine as a childhood. He's seen better days. And then sadly, I had a ton of Garbage Pail Kids. My mom gave me all my baseball, football, basketball cards and saved all those, but somehow the Garbage Pail Kids that are probably worth more money than my sports cards went missing. So I bought this book. It has a bunch of the original card art from the Garbage Pail Kids, so I can open that book, flip through it, and see some of the old card art without having to go buy the vintage Garbage Pail Kids. One more over here. My original 12 are all vintage. That did take me some time. The lightsabers, however, on those three figures are repros. And I've got a little card back over there. $2.27. Wouldn't that be nice? Also got original box for that for $5.99. I had that as a kid. And then I've got a card back on an original 77 Vader there. This Vader and Stormtrooper are reissues. All of these are vintage. Most of the loose figures from here up are vintage, but and then we've got like some modern. That's a 300th Boba Fett. So love the card art, love the vintage figures, and some of the reissues and the card art I've just picked up just because it reminds me of the vintage and it reminds me of the old school days. So you don't have to pay a fortune to still get that nostalgia and that feel that you had when you saw all those toys lined up down the toy aisle when we were kids. It was great. A few other George Lucas, a couple of George Lucas figures that are more modern, but on the card back. Black Series. And then I've got two more over here. There's a Ralph McQuarrie Vader. And I picked that guy up at Celebration 3. I actually have a couple of those. They were valuable at one point, but they've gone down. But most of the ones, again, on the wall that I have in card or box are not vintage. I don't know if this video is going to do well or not. I just wanted to kind of take a quick video and tell you guys, again, it doesn't cost a fortune. And a lot of this stuff, too, that I've been collecting for, I mean, some of these toys are still mine from childhood, and then some we've been collecting for 20 plus years. So it definitely was not put in overnight. I did spend some money on it, but not a fortune. I'm not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on boxed vintage. Maybe one of these days I'll pull the trigger and get something like that, but you can still have that nostalgia and that feel without having to do vintage on everything. And man, just collect what you love. I did a collector tip video several weeks back, and there were some tips on there. And again, it's for people just trying to get started out. It wasn't necessarily designed towards hardcore, but there was one in there that talked about trying to focus your collection. And I did at some points, you know, like when I was doing my G.I. Joe back here or Transformers, there were certain things that I was looking for. I'm pretty much at a point now where I'm not looking for anything particular. If you can look around this room, I've got a little bit of everything. I've got Masters of the Universe. I've got vintage consoles back there. I've got Transformers. I've got G.I. Joe. I've got things that I loved when I was a kid. And when I come into my man cave in this room, it reminds me of my childhood. It takes me back to simpler times. It makes me happy. I can come in here and veg out. I can come in here and relax. I can come in here and watch movies and games and be surrounded by all this. I tell my wife all the time, yes, I have a wife. She would hate me if she would not be on this video, but I do have a wife. She's beautiful, and she allows me to keep this somehow, and I'm grateful for that. But it was a labor of love, and it has changed a lot throughout the years, and it will always continue to change as I buy new pieces, as I find things I want. But I buy what I want. I buy what I like, and I don't really care what anybody else thinks. It doesn't have to be worth a fortune. I don't ever plan on selling this stuff. It's priceless to me, and it's really about how it makes me feel. Again, I can come into this room and I can actually, I had some cartoons up here earlier. I think it changed over. I was watching some GoBots, but um, if I've had a long day, man, I can come up here and I can just chill, or I can come up here sometimes and I just brainstorm ideas, and I'm surrounded by happy times and happy memories and things that I enjoyed as a child, and I still enjoy as a 49-year-old child. So collect what you love, man. I hope this video helped you guys. Man, I do try to answer all the comments. I try to respond back to everybody. If there's anything I can do to help you with your collection, point you in the right direction, show you where I got some of these, give you links, give you tips, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to help out any way I can. Just post in the comments, and please like and subscribe. I'm still trying to get a feel for what you guys want to see. If there's something specific that you want to see, let me know in the comments, message me. Happy to answer back with you. Just collect and connect with fellow collectors that enjoy collecting. So hopefully this video comes off okay and it's not just me rambling. But again, I am more than happy to help. And don't compare, man. I love seeing everybody else's comparisons and collections, and I love just looking, and it's just fun, man. It's a fun. I've met several friends over the years collecting at toy shows and online, and it is just fun to collect and connect with other collectors that love what I love. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Get ready for the next video because we do have a lot more coming, and there's so many videos. Even just walking around this room right now, I get ideas of videos I want to do. So stay tuned. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.